All right. How's everyone doing? Are we all happy? I'm certainly happy enough. All right. Well, we don't really have that many people in chat right now, so I'm just going to hang out for a little bit until we do. Excuse me. So, yeah. This is all a thing. All right. So I'm just thinking, what stories do we even have right now? Not many. One moment. Soon. Very soon. Yeah, I guess nothing's actually decaying anymore. That's not bad. Sorry, hiccuping. Just downed quite a lot of fluid, so that's not that surprising. And how many stories do we have available to us? Whoop, that's not right. One Last Trick or Treat, Tales from the Gas Station 4, The Great Erectus and Fawn 6, and Stabby. Also a random SCP. Bart, what's up? You know, that's something that we could probably do while we wait. Bart's a little overdue for some playtime, and I don't see that many people in chat, so I figure we will just play with the cat for a bit. Hold up. I'm going to set the cat cam to have an actual hotkey, because I took it off of a hotkey ages ago and then just never put it back on. I feel like this needs to be fixed. Yeah. Are you enjoying your new box perch? It's very convenient for asking for attention. Oh, it is? Oh. Hold up. Look at that cat. Do you see this feline? Do you see how cute it is? Who would kill for this feline? Who would die to this feline? Who would die for this feline? This is the picture perfect perfection that we all strive to be someday. Look at this cat. Look at how much he enjoys his life. Right, Bart? Much cat. Very well. Yes. Just look at him as he gets more pets. Where you going, Bart? You're gonna hop up? Come on. Oh, there we go. This is what cats are. Adorable, magnificent, perfect, and lovable. Per machines to all of our specifications. Except only something this perfect could be created by itself. It's a cat. Hey, Blackjack, did you just get in? No one's been around, so I figured I'd just kind of have fun with Bart for a little while. Because look at this cat. Do you hear this cat? Do you hear this feline? Lost track of time, but your phone finally buzzed. It's been doing really badly at that lately. He's very happy, and it's very rare that he actually wants up on my lap on his own. Like, yeah, I put him here, but he actually asked, and I put him here, and he was like, okay, I will sit down, receive all of the pets, and that's all I need. He really loves cheek pets, apparently. Honestly, he just loves all kinds of pets, don't you, Bart? You're just a pet machine. A machine that is entirely made to receive pets. Like a staple gun. Except the other way around. But yes, how are you, Black, Jack, Man, TV? How are you, individual, with maybe a doctorate? Got half a chapter written today. Nice. Considering it's the first day of the week, that's not bad. How much editing do you do on your chapters before you release them? Like, I assume that there's at least some time that goes into it. What a good boy. So at least for me, I think Bart may or may not be my secret weapon, because he is a cat that is very willing to stay in stream as long as he has pets, and he loves all the attention. The funny thing is that he's actually a very skittish cat outside of my like my own interest. Because most of the time he will run and hide if someone else comes in. Usually take 2 to 3 days to write a chapter, and then on the final day, 3 or 4, you spend about 30 minutes to an hour editing. Then take a couple days off to rest/work on publishing the book. That sounds about right. I was thinking, actually, about how you keep urging me to write more. And I absolutely have no idea where I'd fit writing into my schedule right now. right now I have 2 slots of streams going on with Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I've got storytime streams on Monday. And then on Wednesday, I have anime nights with the boys, which is very enjoyable, and I would not give that up for anything. And then I have movie nights with the community on Fridays, which, I mean, I keep inviting people to, but we usually end up having the same group of people. I was kind of hoping movie nights would grow a bit. Oh, we're watching Symphogear right now. And then after that, we're going to be doing Gurren Lagann. Because one person among us has never actually seen Gurren Lagann. And that is a legend of an anime that everyone needs to see at least once. Look at this cat. Isn't he adorable? I think he's calming down now. You don't know the first one I mentioned? Look it up. It's got 4 seasons. 5 seasons, sorry. And we are currently on the 5th season. We are about to end the 5th season. So it's Symphogear, Symphogear G, Symphogear GX, Symphogear AXE, Symphogear XV. Don't ask me what the hell the naming scheme is. I don't know. It's definitely not Roman numerals, I can tell you that. Probably has something to do with the fact that they're all related to games. Honestly, Symphogear is just really good. It's, how do I describe it? It is Magical Mecha Schoolgirl. No, Magical Mecha Idols is how I would describe it. Why did my screen just go off? Okay, no, stop that. All right, well, the cat has abandoned us. So I think now is the time to actually start reading. Shall we? I have my 2 types of drinks. I have done my vocal warm-ups. I am in a much better state of mind than previously, so I am hoping that tonight will be a very good night and I won't have to edit the crap out of this like I did the last couple of times. Jeez. If you want something that will put you in a... well, requires you to be in a good state of mind, do narrations, because good God, you can maybe do writing, you can maybe do other things, like you can stream with in sort of a bad state of mind, but narrations require you to be in a good state of mind to go into them, and I'm starting to realize that. It means that I've been taking more care of myself, I've been watching what I've been doing, all that good stuff. But yes, we're ready for this. Let me just find something real quick. Also, I'm a little surprised, Blackjack. You didn't end up finding too much for me. Usually you are very into finding stories for me, but this time, not so much. We should be seeing a couple things from some of the authors, too, because I know a few of them actually do want to contact me. One of the really early ones that I read, Nick Celestia, is very interested in seeing me read one of theirs. You've been a bit worn out recently yourself. I kind of figured, given that you haven't been around as much. Yeah, that'll do it. And then there's, of course, the stress post-release. Although I imagine you're going to just be a big puddle on the floor once it's all done, and you suddenly don't have as much work to do. Let's see here. Royal Road. Of Men and Dragons. Your cover artist started drawing? Yeah, you did. You did show me. That reminds me, I gotta actually go back and add your own cover. The one that is already on the stuff. Honestly, for book 1, I do like the cover that you already have. You're stoked. Yeah, you said that it was really hard to get his attention, or more correctly, get his time, right? All right, I've got it open. One thing that I really love about Royal Road is that it's got reader preferences and you can change font size. Because, good God, I really want my font size. There's another game that I've played ages ago called Sunless Sea, where I think you actually have a font size thing, but most of the game is reading. And yeah, I was so happy to see the font size setting there. Most artists in that level of quality are busy like a month out, at least. Yeah, that's not surprising. You get known, you start to get some interest. I wish you'd told me, though. I do have other artists myself that have been looking for work, and unfortunately, I do not have I did not have the income for a while to give them any work. Although that will be changing soon. I've started putting together a little bit that I take out of each paycheck for artists specifically. Because yes, I kind of want to be able to pay the artists that I use. That I commission? What's the term? Proposition? Proposition sounds awful. No. Yep. I mean, I've paid them in the past. Anna is really, really worth it, but is also very expensive. So, I don't know if you've seen any of the art for the Dark Forest. Actually, you know what? F it. I kind of want to show this off now. Because I had it recently. So Anna does a lot of art for me for not just the Dark Forest, but a lot of different things. World art. World images. Here we are. Okay. So I've got 2 worlds going. One of them is the... hey, Zeb. What's going on? One of them is the Moonrise world, or Moon's Reach world. And the other one is the Dark Forest. The Dark Forest is tangentially related to Moon's Reach, but I haven't really exposed exactly how yet. But these are just kind of the various pictures of some of the denizens of Moon's Reach that I've talked about. These are the Ceph, also just short for cephalopods. These are the crabs, who Anna has done phenomenal work on the crabs. And this is apparently what helped to get her noticed recently. And I'm actually super glad because she ended up getting into a D&D, or not a D&D, it's a D&D 5e module. She's doing some art for that, which I'm actually really glad because that happened around the time when I just didn't have anything to, I had work for her, but not enough to pay for it. So couldn't really do much. So I'm just glad that there's other stuff. And this is all stuff that she's done for me. This is easily my favorite piece of art that she has ever done for the Dark Forest. This is the Tree of Wounds. The Tree of Wounds is weird. We'll get more into him in the Dark Forest at some point. He's one of my favorite characters. Not that he's much of a character yet, but we'll get to him. Soil and the Salamander. Bjorn. And Bjorn killing Zepnos, also known as the death of Zepnos. Down here you can see the beginning of the ash vine itself. And here we are with the flooded forest and place 119. You've only touched the surface of that tree's wounds. Yep. Stentor the Great, forever lost in the rootways. Zepnos, before his death, and before the events of the first moonrise. Actually, he kind of caused the first moonrise unknowingly. I always kind of wanted to make sort of a picture book if I got enough of these, but that's going to take a while. Right? So Anna put that one up as just something that she was working on and wasn't intending to sell. And I was like, I really like that. Can I buy that from you? So we ended up getting Stentor without having to commission that much. And that was a real cheap one for me. So I'm actually happy that I nabbed that one. Because the funny thing is, at the time that Anna had put it out, I had just finished writing Stentor's story. And it just, this design matches what I imagined for Stentor really, really well. But yeah. All of that's good stuff. I hope to have more in the future, but obviously she also did all of these, which are some of you who come in really early to the stream may note that these are all on the start of the stream. I have one for each season. Oh, that one is not one of hers, though. Hold up. So we've got summer, winter, fall, and somewhere around here, I have spring. Here we are. That's spring. That's Fred the Beaver. I love the derpy frog in this. Spring was always weird because we never had a good image for spring. Because unlike the other areas of the Dark Forest or the other times of the Dark Forest, it doesn't have an event associated with it. I keep swapping out events and nothing's stuck so far. You haven't seen spring before? Ah, you haven't been around during spring then. He's got a graceful air about him despite being covered in moss and stuff. Yeah. Spring's weird. The other interesting thing that I actually like to point out with these is if you look at all of these side by side, this takes place at really close to evening. This actually is hard to tell, but you can also see the forest just leaning in. And this is kind of what gave me the idea of the shield trees, with all of the overgrowth just swarming around the fire. You get the impression that it's barely contained, and this is the overheat event actually occurring. We haven't gotten to Reinhardt yet, but Reinhardt is a thing that we will cover when it happens. I need to reprogram Reinhardt, honestly. There's more things that I've always wanted to do with Reinhardt, but yeah, this is the calmest time of the Dark Forest. This is coming out of the night that is the Moonrise event. Because that's the thing. The Dark Forest doesn't have usual moonrises. There's a reason they last a month. To the Dark Forest, an entire year is a day. I don't know where I got that unicorn. Good God. And then this is actual midday. It's good stuff. Anyway, I've shown off enough. I think it's time that I should actually start doing some reading in this here reading stream. Zeb, are you ready for some stories? All right. Now correct me if I'm wrong, Blackjack, but we are on chapter 6, right? Yes, we are on chapter 6. Oh, come on, man. I only just messaged you the chapter 5 yesterday. Actually, this morning, even more recently. Your brain's shot with the hole. You can take a gander. No, don't worry. I got it. I remember myself. All right. This is Of Men and Dragons, chapter 6, by Blackjack. That's a good start. This is Of Men and Dragons, chapter 6, by Dr. Blackjack 21. Shahar watched as Jack ate his cereal, specifically one called Fruit Loops. The name was misleading. It wasn't made of fruit at all. Instead, it was cooked grain with a fruit flavoring, whatever that meant. It was then submerged in the milk of some herd animal and eaten like a soup. Shahar found the whole thing repulsive. When Jack offered to give her a taste, she almost lost her appetite completely. She was eating eggs, toast, and something divine called bacon. Jack had said something about not making anything as good as his last meal, but obviously he was mistaken. The taste of fat and salty meat combined in a way that was both pleasing to eat and would give her all the energy she'd need later. The movie she had watched with Jack had been unlike anything she'd ever seen before, although, to be fair, that was true of almost everything in Jack's strange world. Still, this was especially weird. Jack explained that what she was watching was something like a play, but it was acted out a long time ago and then recorded so it could be viewed at any time. Shortly after the movie started, Shahar lost interest in his explanations and instead watched as the story unfolded before her. Blackjack, I realized after I said at the end of last stream that I did know Willow because I've seen Willow because it's on YouTube illegally. And yes, so I have seen Willow. Leave it to humans to have a person, small even by human standards, be the hero. In most Argun plays, the hero was the largest male with the biggest muscles. They walked around the stage, swinging ridiculously oversized swords as if compensating for something. Jack explained humans had those movies too, and promised to show her a film starring someone named Arnold Schwarzenegger sometimes. I knew it! I knew that was where this is going! What really fascinated Shahar was the action, the magic, and the characters. Jack had explained that it was all special effects, and that magic and two-headed dragons didn't really exist in his world. Shahar was shaken from her reverie when she realized Jack had asked a question. Her eyes fluttered open as Shahar turned her attention back to Jack. I'm sorry. What did you say? Excuse me. Jack hurriedly swallowed another mouthful of the mess he was chewing before repeating himself. I said, we can do pretty much everything that needs to be done in-house. However, there are so many tasks that jumping back and forth between everything will slow us down more than is necessary. Do you think your people will be willing to trade for any supplies we need, like wood or basic smelting processes? At least until we get to the point where we can automate some of the work. Shahar's head was tilted, and her hand was off to the side. holding the other half of the piece of bacon she'd just taken a bite out of. "You certainly have the resources to trade. The problem is it's the start of winter. Everything slows to nearly a stop. The price of goods and labor are at their highest. On the other hand, you certainly have enough metal and other resources. You could probably tempt some craftsmen to work for you, especially the young ones eager to make a name for yourself. Especially the young ones eager to make a name for themselves. Though it won't be cheap." Jack didn't seem bothered by the possible cost. "We should probably start with something simple to establish ourselves. What if I bring a load of iron to be smelted and trade some of the iron for cut and shaped wood, then take the rest home?" Shahar had never been much for trading, at least not beyond simple things. Shahar had never been much for trading, at least not beyond simple things she needed for day-to-day life, but it seemed reasonable. "That should be doable. The smelters will probably work for a cut of the iron they refine, and woodworkers always need more iron for their tools, though I'm afraid I won't be much help with actual trading." Jack waved away her concern. "You'll be plenty of help. I'll do the actual negotiating, but I'll need you to translate and offer security. I'll be able to understand your people just fine, but you are the only person on this planet, other than Angela, that can understand me. Also, I have a feeling I shouldn't walk through your village with something as valuable as metal unescorted." Shahar looked at the puny male and agreed with him. Whatever tricks he might have up his sleeve, that would be asking for trouble he probably didn't need. Jack looked over to Angela, who was reading something called a book. The AI had explained it was all a facade, but she developed the habit as a way to offer Jack social interaction during meals, without making him uncomfortable. Apparently, humans didn't like being stared at as they ate. "That being said, even with a bodyguard, we should probably take some precautionary measures. Can you make me some protective clothing to wear under my outfit? Maybe an extra durable knife, and maybe even a small sidearm in case of a real emergency?" Angela pulled a ledger from out of the air above her head and started reading. "We should have enough supplies for that, but we're going to have to be careful with the polymers. It's going to take us some time before we can get to the point where we have supplies to be wasteful with that. If we keep it primarily made of metal alloys, we should be fine since you'll be refilling our stores soon. Although, as a result, it will be a bit heavier. Also, even a good knife won't make you a match for an Argoon, but it should buy you enough time for Shahar to pull you out of the metaphorical fire. The handgun is doable as well, but I recommend saving that for life and death situations. Not only will the ammo be something we can't afford to waste, but scaring the locals with your magic is an excellent way to make enemies rather than friends." Jack nodded, finishing another mouthful of his breakfast. "I agree. Well, while you're at it, make some weapons for Shahar as well. Something in keeping with local technology, but with more durable metal alloys." Jack held up a hand to stop Shahar's protests before they were voiced. "This is for me, not you. If you have better equipment, I'm more likely to make it home safely. If you choose not to keep it after we part ways, that's fine. But as long as you are my bodyguard, you're going to have the best arms and armor around." Shahar could see the logic in this argument. "Fine, but try and make it look less flashy than what you have here. It will be more effective if it doesn't make us a target for every raider between here and the village." Angela nods. "That's easy enough for..." Angela nodded. "That's easy enough to do. On the surface, it'll look like a conventional refined iron, but it'll be sharper and more reliable than anything available to the locals. Your natural plates provide excellent protection, but we can add a little something to reinforce the weak spots around vital areas, though that'll take a little more time to design." Jack was cleaning up the table. That leaves our final problem. There. Problem. That leaves our final problem. Transportation. We have to get the metal to the village to trade said metal. Eventually, we'll want a cart, but with all the moving parts, that's one of the things we should probably purchase rather than craft ourselves. For now, I suppose we can make a simple sled. We won't be able to take it. We won't be able to take as much with us on the first trip, but that might be for the best. That way, we can get a feel for the local trading practices before we paint too big a target on our back. Angela gave Shahara an appraising look. You might be able to take more than you think, but I agree that it's a good place to start. Let me try that again. That wasn't quite as good a reading as I would like. You might be able to take more than you think, but I agree that's a good place to start. While you make the sled, I'll start analyzing the mountain around us and determine the best places to dig for stability, and where you'll find quality iron veins. The locals still use bog ore, limiting the amount of metal they have available, so even a single good vein should supply us with enough for our needs for the foreseeable future. Yeah. For our needs for the it's the for the combined with foreseeable, and then there's the future right after that to just screw me up more. Yeah. So even a good one moment. I'm gonna somebody likes alliteration. I don't think Blackjack even intended that. So even a single good vein should help us with enough of keep it together, Newt. Come on. So even a single good vein should supply us with enough for our needs for the foreseeable future. Jack nodded in agreement. Sounds like we have a plan. Shahar, you'll have to come with me. I'll be able to cut down a tree easy enough, but I suspect we'll be able to get it back to the mountain to work on more easily with your help. Shahar gave Jack a slightly dismissive look. Are you certain you don't want me to cut the tree down for you? We don't want to spend a whole day on this, do we? Jack had a look in his eye that could only be described as disquieting. Oh, I think I'll be all right. I'm going to enjoy introducing you to something called a chainsaw. Shahar shook her head in bewilderment. Jack was clearly insane. This chainsaw could only have been born from the fevered dream of a madman. It probably didn't help her opinion any that as he was using it, Jack had been laughing, and his laughter had a bit of an odd maniacal edge to it. The loud roar of its motor was unlike anything Shahar had ever heard, and the way it chewed through the thick tree was both impressive and a little scary. However, Shahar could not debate the effectiveness of the device. In moments, the tree he'd chosen was down, and the branches removed. He then attached an odd harness to the trunk and had Shahar wrap the other end around her shoulders. Although the trunk was many times heavier than Shahar, dragging it was quite simple with the harness. As he walked alongside her, Jack shook his head. You know, every time I start to think of you as just another tall human, you go and do something like this and prove me wrong. I'm relatively confident pulling that log would be something that would only be done in a strongman contest back home. Yet you don't even seem to be pushing your limits. I was sure I'd have to cut that thing up to make multiple trips. Shahar looked over at him with a quizzical look. Then why didn't you? Jack shrugged his shoulders. I was curious. I expected you to be able to move it. I just thought the strain would be too much for a long haul, and I'd have to adjust the load. I was wondering whether we should make 2 or 3 trips. Looking at you now, I'm reasonably sure that harness will reach its limit before you do. Still, this bodes well for hauling some ores to the town. We'll be able to move a much larger load than I anticipated. Shahar looked back down at the small man walking beside her. You know, If all you wanted was a beast of burden, you could probably get a trained Arlak. They are larger than an Argoon and able to pull far heavier loads and move them further. Plus, they are easy to feed. Just let them graze in the nearby fields. Although you'll have to have somewhere for them to sleep at night, or something might make a meal out of it. Jack looked interested. That's definitely something to keep in mind. We'll need to get a few things in place and have our trading up and running before that's feasible. For the immediate future, you'll have to double up as a beast of burden and bodyguard. I hope you don't mind. She looked at him with a gleam in her eye. You forgot translator and local guide. Too many more job titles, and I might reconsider keeping those weapons when I'm done. Jack grinned at her. You'd be welcome to them. You're turning out to be quite the jack of all trades. The ridges over Shahar's eyes furrowed in confusion. You make that sound like a title, but I thought Jack was your name. Jack laughed. Sorry, it's a phrase from back home. It means you're good at a wide variety of tasks. The fact that my name is part of the phrase is entirely a coincidence. Well, maybe not entirely. I'm kind of partial to the phrase because of that. As they neared the cave, Jack's expression grew more serious. You caught my attention when you mentioned that something might eat the Arlak. I'm guessing you're talking about local predators. So that begs the question, what sort of local wildlife should I keep a lookout for? Shahar was quiet for a moment, pulling the trunk along behind her before speaking. Shahar was quiet for a moment, pulling the trunk along behind her before speaking up. First is the Kovak. They are actually an herbivore, but have an ornery disposition. They will charge and attack anything they feel threatens their territory. In mating season, they've even been known to attack large predators, and sometimes even succeed in driving them off. Thick-skinned with a horn on their head, they can be quite the nuisance. Their meat is quite delicious. It sells for a premium, and their hide can be used to craft a durable leather. Shahar's expression became a bit more serious. Second, there is the Wolgen. They are large predators that usually keep their distance from villages. They are fast and have long claws capable of puncturing our plates. Shahar emphasized this point by slapping the plate on her arm. If one sets up its territory too close to our village, a hunting party of 3 or more will be sent to deal with it. Even then, it's all too common for at least one hunter to be severely injured in the hunt. Jack nodded. Sounds like a regular alpha predator. Big, scary, top of the local food chain. Not much willing to mess with it. Shahar looked over at Jack with a grin that unsettled him, and not just because of how apparent it made her sharp predator teeth. Oh, there's something higher up this food chain you speak of. The Tuthron. Pray to whatever gods the humans worship. You never run into them. Jack was suddenly nervous. They are bigger and scarier than the Wolgen? Shahar's grin widened. Jack was suddenly sure there were now twice as many teeth in that mouth as there had been a mere moment before. Scarier, yes, but not bigger. One Tuthron is hardly a threat, and they're even smaller than yourself. Well, that bite would hurt. It probably wouldn't be a serious threat to your life on its own. The problem is they sometimes travel in swarms. Jack didn't like the use of the word swarms at all. Shahar continued, seemingly enjoying the look of worry that had hold of Jack's face. A proper Tuthron swarm could easily overpower an Argoon or even a Wolgen. A proper Tuthron swarm could even Nah. A proper Tuthron swarm. Oh god, now I've gotten rid of the accent. A proper Tuthron swarm could easily overpower an Argoon or even a Wolgen. I've even heard stories of impossibly large swarms wiping out whole villages, although I'm pretty sure those were just campfire tales told to scare children. Jack really didn't like what he was hearing. He hoped Shahar played up the story a bit to try and scare him, but he was afraid she probably wasn't. Jack watched as Shahar dropped her load and unhooked the harness. Either way, Jack resolved to look into these threats a bit further. But first, it was time to get to work. Hey Blackjack? Do you mind if I do another chapter? Sweet. That one felt really short. Probably was really short. Oh god, it actually wasn't. I don't know when I started reading that, but that one felt like 20 minutes, and we're already almost an hour done. Free publicity. Actually, I did want to ask you, Blackjack. If someone does end up becoming interested in doing a voice narration of this after you publish the book, I hope that the existence of all of this stuff doesn't end up stopping that. Obviously, the free variation would probably be lower quality, but it's still free. I'm just worried that you might be giving away some ability with that. Especially if I keep doing this over the years. Being self-published, you doubt it would be an issue. Worst case, you might have to ask me to take down existing videos. That's fine. I can just unlist them. And that's kind of what I expect whenever I ask people. Since I do ask people for permission, they are free to ask me to remove any videos that might be offending. That's good to know, though. Just want to make sure that you're thinking about that if the case ever does come up. Because I know that is one of the reasons that people don't want their stuff to be adapted. Shahar filled the sled. Title. This is Of Men and Dragons, Book 1, Chapter 7 by Dr. Blackjack, 21. Shahar filled the sled with the first load of ore. The sled itself was a simple design, a raised platform with short walls around the side. Underneath were a couple of runners. Excuse me. Some burp. Let me try that again. The sled itself was a simple design, a raised platform with short walls around the side. Underneath were a couple of runners, the bottoms of which were coated with thin layers of metal. The runners were curved upwards at the end, allowing them to pass over small obstacles. At the front, Jack attached a harness similar to the one Shahar had used to haul the trunk earlier. Her people often used a similar design, though there usually wasn't any metal on the runners. It was too precious to waste on something as simple as hauling material. You hope that you'll get to that level, but you'd be more surprised. I suppose it's good to keep expectations low. I think you will, though. There's enough good stuff here. Calculated risk. You figure more eyes on stuff now is worth complications later. Oh, that's an interesting idea. So you'll get revenue for book 1, and then once book 2 comes out, book 1 will go free for anyone who's interested in catching up. Are you planning on doing the same thing with book 2 after book 3 is out? Or just seeing how it goes? Might be too far in the future to say. Neat. Dude, I'm actually really interested to see how all of this goes. Future published author in chat. It's going to be great. Jack had dug up the ore through a process he called mining. He used a large metal frame he called an exosuit. While in it, he moved much slower than usual, but it gave him tremendous strength. Enough that he could lift the drill he used and place girders made from the remnants of the trees that they had cut down the day before. He'd said he was looking for something called iron veins. She'd been confused, but Jack clarified. They're deposits of high concentrations of metal that ran through the mountain the way veins run through a person. Shahar had doubted Jack until he dug them out, separated the metal from the stone, and then filled the area with a mix of gravel and something he called concrete. The chunks of metal and rocks were then broken down, and the metal was separated from the stone. The stone would fill the next hole Jack dug, and Shahar would haul the ore back to the cave entrance. It was exhausting work, but went quicker than Shahar would have thought possible. In an afternoon, the two of them had acquired more iron than a team of her people could gather in a week. Normally, walking the distance from Jack's cave to Shahar's village would be a dangerous trek at the start of winter, but this time was different. Angela and Jack had gifted Shahar with clothing warmer than any she'd ever owned in her life. On top of that, they had included pockets on the inside that... Oops. Oh, good. Thank you, Dropbox. On top of that, they had included pockets on the inside that held warming packets. With little experimentation, Shahar was able to walk around the cave with none of the usual lethargy that overtook her people when they spent too much time out in the cold air. As Shahar loaded the iron, Jack was grumbling about it being inhumane to be awake and working at this hour of the day. He was packing other supplies they might need on the trip. Things like a tent, sleeping mats, sleeping bags, change of clothes, food, supplies for a fire, and more. It seemed a bit much for a short journey, but at her inquiring look, Jack had shrugged. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Shahar couldn't fault his logic. With everything packed and ready, Shahar put on her harness. Jack picked up his backpack, which was loaded with a few final supplies, and began their journey to Shahar's village. It's happening! Jack watched his traveling companion closely. Her expression was still hard to read, but her expressions were still hard to read, but Jack was getting better at figuring out what emotions triggered what response. Right now, her face was a careful mask of neutrality, but Jack's gut was telling him there was subtle signs of worry his eyes weren't picking up. As she scanned the horizon, Jack could tell her gaze wasn't lingering on any one spot, and her thoughts seemed to be turned inward. It didn't seem like she was worried about the present, so it must be the future that weighed on her. With a little reflection, it wasn't hard to guess why. Around noon, they stopped to eat some of the food Jack had packed. It was a meal made more with the convenience in mind than taste, but it was still decent enough. Lunch consisted of a few ham and cheese sandwiches and some teriyaki jerky added to satisfy Shahar's high meat requirements. In between bites, Jack decided to broach the subject that seemed to be weighing on Shahar's mind. How do you think your hometown is going to react to their sacrifice, returning alive and acting as a bodyguard to a wealthy trader? Shahar jumped, as though she had forgotten Jack was sitting just a few feet across from her. As she looked at him, her eyes blinked slowly the way someone might if they had just woken from a deep sleep. He could tell from her expression that Shahar seemed somewhat ashamed for letting herself get so distracted. Shahar had a hard edge to her eyes as she replied, Honestly, I'm not sure. I imagine most of the villagers will be indifferent. This time of year, they are too busy preparing for winter to waste any more energy. This time of year, They are too busy preparing for winter to waste any more time or energy than is necessary, especially on anything that doesn't directly impact themselves. The real question is how much trouble Ba'arthon may want to cause. My snubbing him is the reason I found myself in that situation, and I suspect he won't be happy until I'm no longer there to remind him of his humiliation. Jack took an interest in this. I've heard you speak of him before. From the sound of things, he's a person of some import to the village. How much trouble could he cause if he chose to? Shahar sighed in frustration. Again, I'm not sure. When I was on my own, he could get rid of me easily enough by volunteering me as a sacrifice. With you, it will probably be different. You have resources to offer that could make a large difference to the village's prosperity, and by extension, his family's as well. That's probably not enough to make Ba'arthon stop and think, but it might be enough to force his father to rein him in. On the other hand, you aren't Argun, so he may decide it's best to take what you have by force. If it comes to that, I'm confident I can get you out alive, but otherwise, our trip might be a total loss. Jack tilted his head and locked his eyes with Shahar's. That's all well and good regarding my welfare, but what about yourself? This village was your home. These are your people, and they turned their back on you. How are you holding up with the idea of returning to it at all? Shahar was silent for a moment while she looked into the distance. As she returned her attention to Jack, a sad smile passed her lips. I may have lived there all my life, but I think that the village stopped being a home to me long ago. I already had plans to try and move on if I survived another winter. It was purely coincidental that you offered me the opportunity to do so a little earlier. I think the only reason I hadn't already moved on was my job in the guard. It was a large part of who I was, and at the time, that seemed like enough. Now that I'm looking back, the last few years feel empty. I don't know what the future holds for me currently, but at least I'm moving forward once again. Jack sat back and nodded. He understood a thing or two about living through empty years. He also noticed the worry seemed to have mostly lifted from Shahar's face. It seemed like she had found a resolution to whatever inner turmoil had been troubling her. Packing away the remnants of their lunch, Jack stood up and started shouldering his pack again. Well, speaking of moving forward, we should get going again. If we are too late getting back to the ship tomorrow, Angela is liable to start looking into a way to come looking for us. Trust me, we don't want that. Her ideas tend to be a little excessive. Most of the time, only 1 out of 10 books even break even, and only 1 out of 10 of those become what the industry considers a success, 10K sold. You'll be more than happy if you can make it into the first category in your first attempt. Yeah, that's definitely fair. Well, you've definitely got me rooting for you, and I assume all of the people that have been reading your books online. Didn't you say that a lot of people had already said that they wanted to buy the book when it came out? Hopefully that'll generate some level of interest. The physical copy being out in the world is going to be, well, I mean, it's physical. It's hard to ignore. As they approached the gate, Shahar could see the guard was asleep next to the fire, still burning at his post. That wasn't too surprising this late into the year. It was uncommon for any Argun to be out making trouble in the cold. The guards were mostly there to remind everyone of their presence, and thus make anyone and thus keep anyone from wasting enough energy to cause problems. The village wouldn't need to worry about raids until spring at the earliest, and the wildlife knew better than to come this close to the wall of a town filled with hungry predators. As they approached, Shahar called out to the guard, "Get on, you old lazy waste of a uniform. Wake up and do something useful for once, like opening the gate. We have a shipment of metal to trade for goods and services." The Argoon Shahar shouted to, The Argoon Shahar shouted at came to with a jolt. He was obviously a bit past his prime, but any young Argoon guard who thought that meant he was easy pickings in the sparring ring quickly found themselves on their back end, trying to remember what exactly had gone wrong. He'd taught Shahar more than one dirty trick to deal with anyone who let themselves become overconfident due to their size and strength. These days, he preferred to take boring jobs. He was famous for complaining that excitement is for the young. He didn't feel the need to show off like the rest of the guard, so Shahar had always liked working with him. A sheepish grin covered his embarrassment as he came to attention. "Shahar, I didn't expect to see you." His face fell as he remembered why he wasn't expecting to see her. "Again," he finished lamely. Shahar walked right up to him, not hiding her amusement at his discomfort. "Well, apparently it takes more than a dragon to kill me, even if I'm left tied to a pole as an offering. It turns out that the dragon happened to be in the market for a local guide and guard. This here is Jack. He's the dragon's representative, and he's here to trade a bit of metal." Jack grumbled in the background, demoted from dragon to a mere representative. A guy just can't catch a break. Geron looked back and forth between the two. He knew Shahar was formidable and had a temper, not to mention motive, but on her own, she was hardly a threat to an entire village. This Jack looked sickly and hardly seemed like he could pose a danger to even the village children. Bending down and inspecting the ore, he was surprised at the amount and the quality they had. While he was hardly an expert, he'd been operating the gate long enough to see the ore the workers usually brought back. This seemed like at least a couple of weeks' worth. Turning back to Shahar, he decided to be straight with her. "Now, I know you have cause to make trouble, but I want your word that you are here for trade and nothing else. Also, you'll have to leave your weapon with me. They'll be returned to you when you leave tomorrow." Shahar crossed her arms and rested her weight on one heel. Her face bore a clear expression of annoyance. "Why take our weapons? Every day traders come through armed to the teeth." Geron had the decency to look ashamed, but refused to budge on the issue. "Look, I'm not saying I agree with what happened to you. I can even see why it would be tempting for you to get a little revenge. What's more, I might even enjoy the show. However, as the guard who let you into the village, I'd be held responsible. You've got the motive. I'm just trying to remove the means. We both know you can take care of yourself with or without that short sword at your side. At least I'll look like I'm trying to do my job." Shahar looked like she was about to protest further, but Jack had already unbelted his knife and handed it over. Realizing Geron was old and stubborn enough to argue the day away, she relented and handed her blade in as well. Did Jack understand Geron? Oh yeah, I guess he can understand the language, he just can't speak it. That's right. Geron took the weapon, then looked at Shahar. "And your word?" Shahar felt like a child being asked to apologize when she had... Shahar felt like she was a child being asked to apologize when she was anything but sorry. "Fine. I will not seek revenge against the spineless villagers who left me for dead, or the dickless wonder who led them. This time. Satisfied that was as good as he was going to get, Garon took a moment to inspect the blades before stowing them away in the shed behind him. Walking back, he rapped on the gate loudly. "Hey, Jamal! Open up! We got some traders here with iron." From the other side of the gate came the voice of a younger and more bored Argun. "This time of year? Are they insane?" Despite his words, the gate was unbarred and swung open, allowing Shahar and Jack to walk in. As she walked past the younger guard, she could feel his eyes bulging out of their sockets as he recognized who was walking past. She just kept her eyes forward and kept walking, letting him stare slack-jawed at her retreating form. As they walked through town, they could hear voices raised in astonishment and confusion all around them. People stopped what they were doing to see the sacrifice walking amongst them again. Not only that, but she was leading the oddest and sickliest-looking Argun any of them had ever seen. From the whispers that followed them, this seemed to be one of the most notable events in the village's recent history. Shahar noticed a few Argun that took off running as soon as they saw who was the source of the attention. It was a fair bet that all too soon Ba'arthon would hear about her return. However, for now, it was best to worry about unloading the ore before things got overly dramatic. As they approached the crafting corner of the village, the younger Argun stopped what they were doing to stand and stare at the odd pair. Not long after, an old Argun appeared and began whipping a couple of the nearby workers with a towel smeared in grease. "Who told you that you could slack off? Get back to work with the lot of you." You're enjoying joining partway through early book 1? You may need reminding, but you'd like to read/support this. If you are interested, let me find the playlist. I've been keeping a playlist of these as I upload them. Here we are. Take a look at that, Zeb. The quality of the editing has gone up significantly since I started too, so be aware of that. Shahar hadn't worked with the craftmaster much in the past, but he always treated the guard with respect, and she had no ill will towards the old man. "I'm not here to make trouble, Markon, but I'm not going to help with your workload either. We've got a load of iron ore here that we want to have refined. In return, you'll get a cut of the refined iron." Markon looked over at the ore Shahar had indicated. He held up a chunk, glaring at it with a critical eye. "It's garbage, and it'll take a lot of work to refine. We'll do it for a 5 out of 10 cut." That seemed like a lot. That seemed like a lot to Shahar, but she wasn't sure how to respond. That's when Jack stepped up. "Shahar, introduce me and translate. I'll negotiate." Shahar turned back to Markon. "This is Jack. The ore is his. I'm just working as a guard and translator on his behalf. He can understand you just fine, but he can't speak our tongue." Jack looked up at the older Argun, barely coming up to his chest. It was easy to feel intimidated, but Jack tried not to let any of that show on his face, and hoped Shahar could compensate for any hesitation in his voice. "Tell him that's some of the purest ore he's ever going to see, and he can have a 1 in 10 cut." Markon listened for a moment before grinning and countering. "Our workload is already too full with the winter coming. We'll do it for a 4 in 10 cut." Jack didn't hesitate. The smelters will keep him and his people plenty warm while the rest of the village is cold. If he wants us to come back here regularly instead of going to a different village, he can have a 2 in 10 cut. A look of surprise flashed across Markon's face at the idea of this much. A look of surprise flashed across Markon's face at the idea of this much ore regularly, but the look faded so quickly Jack could tell he was a veteran negotiator. The old man countered again.
You came here because we're closer than any other village. We'll take a 2.5 in 10 cut.
Jack thought that was fair, but added in one last condition. You can have 2.5 out of 10. I should be saying 2.5, actually. They probably don't use decimals. You can have a 2.5 out of 10, but I get to choose which bars you keep. This will avoid the temptation of anyone trying to make some bars higher quality than the rest. Jack held out his hand and had Shahar explain.
This is called a handshake. Where I come from, it has many uses, including the acknowledgement of mutually beneficial agreement.
This is called a handshake. Where I come from, it has many uses, including the acknowledgement of a mutually beneficial agreement. Hearing this, Markon offered his hand as well. Jack took the oversized hand and shook twice. Pleasure doing business with you, Markon. I look forward to working with you again. We'll stop by tomorrow to tell you where the refined ore will be sent. Markon looked genuinely surprised at this.
You're not taking it with you?
Jack shook his head. Not this time. We won't have the time to hang around for it all to smelt. Instead, we're planning on trading most of it for some goods we need to take with us. The rest we'll pick up when we come for the next load. Markon thought for a moment.
Fair enough, but I won't have the space to store it for a long time. We'll use anything left for more than 2 weeks and reimburse you with something of similar value at our discretion.
Jack nodded. That'll work fine. 2 weeks should be plenty of time. Markon looked around him and selected one apprentice who seemed less focused than the rest.
Telron, get your butt over here and get this ore over to the smelter. I want to have half of this smelting by morning, so we know the iron's quality. Now get moving.
The young Argun got to it right away. The apprentices seemed to have more than a healthy fear of an earth apprentice. The apprentices seemed to have the healthy fear any earth apprentice would have for a strict master, but they lacked the skittishness youngsters showed around someone too quick to lash out. Jack decided he liked old Markon. Just then, Markon looked over their shoulders and suddenly seemed tired for some reason.
I've got work to do. Remember, I don't want any trouble around here, so if you have to fight, take it elsewhere. That goes for all of you.
Jack had just a second to be confused before hearing a surprisingly petulant new voice behind him.
Looks like the new orphan girl was even a failure at being a sacrifice. Now she's also got a pet. Or maybe she's finally found someone pathetic enough to let her share his bed.
As Jack turned around, he saw an unfamiliar Argun. This one was slightly shorter than the average male Jack had seen until now, but he was dwarfed by the two giants standing just behind him. Most of the villagers seemed to wear leather or primitive cloth garments, but the center Argun wore furs and even a little metal. All three wore the same grin. It was the kind of grin that announces to everyone that they were looking to cause trouble. Shahar stepped up, putting herself between Jack and the dude. Shahar stepped up, putting herself between Jack and the new group. She then addressed the leader.
Hello, Baharthan. It's been a while, hasn't it?
I knew that this was how the chapter would end, but I'm actually really interested in this now. Like, I've heard so much about Barthon that I just really want to find out what he's like. Also, hold up, I need to show something to chat. So this is Blackjack's icon with the Royal Road stuff. And this is the most regal looking cat I have ever seen. That's a pretty gentle cliffhanger. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I forget, Blackjack, did I ever ask you if you'd read Wizard Tournament? I probably have. That'd be Alfred, your co-author. I assume that's your cat? Okay. That's another series that I would... Whoops. Ah! No. Open it up again. Ignore the giant anime eyes. I'll put it back to that. How do I undo? He naps next to you while you're writing. Oh, none of my cats have enough space on my desk to nap. Elsa naps next to me while I'm working, if she has the space, but lately she hasn't. She would like to nap next to me. Reopen close tab. There we are. I want to keep reading, but we have other things to read. So I'm going to leave that cliffhanger for now. You have an L desk, a third of which is taken up by Alfred's bed. I would like something like that, but my desk is also pretty nice. Elsa has recently discovered that she can sit on the shelf that's above my computer monitor and stare down at the world, and she takes great joy in doing exactly that. And then she will flop onto her side and just let her head roll off so that she can look down at me upside down. Isn't that right, Elsa? Yeah, you hear your name. Elsa definitely knows what her name is. All right. Honestly, I think, and this did take a while before I wanted to just keep reading, but I think that chapter 5 is definitely the point where you've hooked me. But chapter 2 is also extremely good. Just things that I'm thinking while I'm reading this. Okay. Oh, hey. How you doing, Rage? Welcome, and I hope that you have a good new kitten. I'm still in world building. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I was looking forward to right now, because we've talked about the Argun. We've gotten to know Shahar. We have an idea of sort of how Jack and Angela got here and the circumstances that surrounded why they're here. Rage, did you just get here? Or have you been in chat this whole time? And did I miss you come in? I wouldn't be that surprised. What is the new kitty's name? And how is Beans doing? Is Beans still a troublemaker? I think Beans is what, 3 now? Beans is the same age as Elsa when I got Elsa. Isn't that right, you troublemaker? Actually, Elsa's not a troublemaker at all. The most trouble that Elsa will make is getting inside of things that she shouldn't be inside of, such as me opening a drawer or a cabinet and she immediately hopping in. Okay. Well, I hope you've been enjoying the Newt audiobooks. You know what I might do? I might try and reach out to Shore AI, because there's a lot of storylines in Shore AI that... So there's a game called Enderall where... Okay, for one thing, the game's story is actually written by an actual writer, which is more than most game stories. which also just means that the story is a lot higher quality. But also, that same writer wrote all the books. I'm pretty sure, which means that they're all miniature novels. And I kind of want to see if I could do some of those. I always did mean to just go through the big list of them, and because I did always like Enderall's World. Oh yeah, she can push the power button. Oh, she's calmed down. I wouldn't say she's calmed down. She just doesn't have the capability to push the power button anymore. Like, there are now plastic covers over it. It depends on when I fed her. Okay, yeah, she is 3. How does Beans like the new kitten? Also, what kind of kitten is it? Of course, we get Great Erectus and Fawn. It is 8:29. This will take a decent chunk of time. I don't know how many of these Great Erectus and Fawn chapters we have left. I know that we're pretty close to the end right now, because they're about a month apart. Oh God, I remember this. I remember looking at this and going, oh God, no. Which, the name of this chapter is Oh Hell No. Oh, I'm gonna ping Slightly Assholic. Yeah, she got really good at it. He's a domestic long hair. Oh, that'll grow up to be a very pretty mane on a cat. Elsa doesn't really have much of a mane, but she's got a little bit of one. She's a female cat, so manes are kind of rare anyway. His name is Bones. Beans and Bones. I see a naming scheme here. Is the next one going to be called Bonds? Oh, you didn't name him? Just a happy coincidence. All right. Well, I'm going to get started on this. So, this is The Great Erectus and Fawn. Oh, hell no! Which is a side story to, well, just the main story, I guess, by Slightly Assholic. I can do better than that. This is The Great Erectus and Fawn, Chapter 6. Oh, hell no, by Slightly Assholic. Slightly Assholic would like to start this by saying that they are very, very sorry. Captain Juan Lucas Picado, sporting a valiant trickle of blood down his face, stood on his blackened and smoking bridge, battered but broken. He surveyed the hopeless situation. Dozens of Federation vessels, shattered and destroyed, floated aimlessly around his ship. They weren't that much better off themselves. Before them, virtually undamaged, floated a gigantic dodecahedron, a prawn mothership at the edge of the solar system herself. Since their arrival into the Federation sector only weeks before, they had laid waste to the world after world, assimilating their innocent, defenseless people into their horrible cybernetic hordes. Nothing could stop them. Nothing. They were simply too advanced. The pitiful remains of a once proud and powerful, he once thought, fleet augmented by hastily converted civilian vessels desperately tried to rally behind him, one of the last Spiral-class starships left. "Hijo de puta," he muttered quietly as he reviewed the latest damage and casualty reports. They would lose, and he and his entire crew would die, if they were lucky. There was no doubt in his mind the same that... Excuse me. Oh, God, itchy nose. Stop it. Nose. Why must you do this at the beginning of a reading? They would lose, and he and his entire crew would die, if they were lucky. And there was no doubt in his mind that the same as there was no doubt in the minds of anyone on his ship or anyone in the on the ragtag fleet around him. They were doomed. But this wasn't about victory anymore. It was a desperate battle for time. Each precious second they could delay the prawn would be one of the more... by the way, I want to just drop this in chat so that you all understand exactly what this alien species is named. It was a desperate battle for time. Each precious second they could delay the prawn would be one more family transported on onto one more vessel. Each priceless minute would be one more ship safely fleeing Earth, their home, for somewhere, anywhere. Maybe some humans would manage to survive. That's what they were fighting for. The desperate hope that perhaps, just maybe, this wasn't the end. Maybe, just maybe, humanity, its culture, its hopes, and its dreams wouldn't die today. After everything that had happened, it was enough. Ignoring the pain, he drew himself to his full height and straightened his scorched uniform. "Open a public channel," he told the communication officer, a petty officer he didn't even know. "Yes, Captain," she replied, her voice calm and brave. The captain took a deep breath. "This is Captain Juan Lucas Picado of the Federation starship Venture. We stand here today to protect what remains of our people and our home. I will not lie to any of you. We have little hope of victory this day. However, each moment we can delay the prawn enables those we left... each moment we delay the prawn enables those we have left. But that... yeah. What? What's the question mark for, Rage? However, each moment we can delay the prawn enables those we left behind to save just a few more of our friends, our family, our brothers and our sisters. I urge each and every one of you to fight to the last for each precious second we can delay those inhuman monsters. Each second is worth what we will pay for them with our blood, our courage, and our very lives." I mean, I think that's the intent. You probably read it right unknowingly. "It is the darkest before the dawn, and these moments are the darkest humanity has ever seen. But hold fast and know that we ensure that dawn will shine for those whose lives we exchange with our own." Surrounded by the truly infinite, truly timeless void, something stirred. Humanity, it thought, as one of its ancient eyes cracked open. "And to the prawn, we have only one thing to say to you.
You may defeat us, but you will never break us. You say that opposition is pointless. Even so, we oppose you. My fellow men and women, hold the line. This is Captain Juan Lucas Picado of the Starship Venture, and this is my final stand. Come, my fellow humans, stand with me. He gestured to the communications officer with a grim smile. She terminated the broadcast. It's been an honor, Captain, she said with the sublime grace of someone who has accepted her fate. Out in the spaces between all that is, an ancient force fully awakened and a being of ancient and immense power started to move. Captain, his science officer exclaimed, something is happening. Something? Captain Picado asked. Could you be more specific, please? I wish I could, Captain, the science officer reported. There is an unknown energy reading 2,500 meters in front of us. I've never seen anything like it. On screen. A glowing rectangle the size of a door suddenly appeared. Immediately afterwards, his entire ship shuddered as it was driven back by impossible energies, its shields glowing. What was that? Captain Picado shouted as he fell backwards to his command chair. I don't know, his science officer replied, his faintly glowing robotic eyes staring at his displays. I can't even begin to... Captain, the communications officer shouted. Look, she exclaimed as she pointed at the screen. A strangely humanoid figure, dressed in a simple dress embroidered with flowers with an elegant sword strapped on her belt, stepped through the glowing portal, her blonde hair billowing out around her. An instant later, she was on the bridge, their shields failing to stop her. Son of a bitch, she said. You are humans. Neat. I am Captain Juan Lucas Picado of Starship Venture, the captain said with a commanding voice as he gestured to his security officer. Who are you? You can call me Flower Child, the woman said as she smoothed her tousled hair over her slightly pointed ears. I was taking a nap nearby, relatively speaking, when I was disturbed by your very noisy and very leaky broadcast. When I heard the word human, I decided to check you guys out. She peered at the screen. Ugh, ass immolators, she said, as she looked at the dodecahedron. I loathe these guys. They give synthetics a bad name. She turned to Juan Lucas. Statistically speaking, the vast majority of synthetic, mechanical, and AI life forms are not hostile. In fact, most of them like organic life forms and are great allies if given half a chance. She turned to the science officer. Oh, hello there, she smiled. I see you have one among you. My name is Datum, the android said politely. If I may be so bold, what form of life are you? That's a bit complicated, Flower Child smiled, and would raise questions that would take far longer to answer than we have at the moment. Her eyes glowed with a terrible light. Perhaps I will tell you after I deal with these noobs. Captain, a dark-haired, olive-skinned woman sitting next to him communicated with telepathy. I am detecting levels of intelligence and power that I've never encountered before. Ever. You don't know the half of it. The telepath gasped and fell back in her chair as Flower Child smiled at her. These noobs are toast. Would you please connect me to these morons? Flower Child asked nobody in particular. Captain? The communications officer asked uncertainly. Do it, the captain said with a shrug. This was weird, but weird was something he was quite familiar with. An unpleasant-looking cyborg appeared on the screen. Opposition is pointless, it snarled. The prawn is all-powerful. Flower Child smirked. You can't be serious, she laughed. The prawn? Are you following Directive 34?
We are not familiar with this directive. Oh, you're about to be, she snickered. Hard. She took a second to compose herself. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions, she said pleasantly. And I know what humans can be like. So, tell me, is there some reason you are attacking? Did they do something to piss you off, bless their little hearts? They are inferior and therefore must be destroyed. They will be assimilated and their technology will be absorbed into our own. Not that we expect to find much of use. So, to be perfectly clear, Flower Child smirked, you maintain that a species being inferior is sufficient grounds to utterly exterminate them. All life is inferior, and all inferior beings will serve the prawn. Okay, Flower Child smiled. Inferior beings deserve to be destroyed. Got it. She slowly drew her sword. Prepare to get wrecked, noob. Captain, the science officer exclaimed, the prawn ship is powering weapons. Evasive maneuvers. A hellish beam of energy lashed out from the prawn mothership and washed harmlessly across the Venture's shields. What? The captain exclaimed in surprise. Damage report. Shields, the science officer said in surprise. Shields are at 100%, Captain. I buffed your shields, Flower Child said casually. Now I'm going to go over there and have a little chat with these scrubs. Excuse me, Flower Child, a voice said from everywhere and nowhere. Sweet roll, Flower Child said happily as another hell beam from the prawn ship did absolutely nothing. How have you been, old friend? It's been a while. Until about 10 minutes ago, the voice said. I was perfectly wonderful. I hate to intrude on your fun, but there's something I hate to intrude on your fun, but there is something that must be attended to immediately. Flower Child waved her hand, and a beam from the prawn froze in place, along with everything in 30 light minutes except for the bridge. I know that one, Flower Child said dubiously. What's wrong? Oh, sorry. I know that tone, Flower Child said dubiously. What's wrong? Tatum, the captain exclaimed. I don't know, Captain. I just don't. It seems that the boss has developed a 1D10T error. An image appeared showing a silver-haired woman sitting beside a primitive-looking hominid in front of a huge glowing wall covered with runes. As they were laughing and pointing, the silver-haired woman nudged the ape-man with her shoulder. Her shoulder stayed. He wrapped his arm around her as she laid her head on his shoulder. Oh, hell no! Flower Child shouted. You understand my concern, then? You weren't the one who had to deal with... Oh, fuck this noise, Flower Child exclaimed. Where is that idiot? A glowing glyph appeared that made the vision of everyone on the bridge blur until it disappeared. On it, Flower Child grumbled. She turned to a very confused captain. Sorry, she smiled. Something far more dangerous than the prawn just appeared. I gotta go. What? Don't worry, she replied. I'm not leaving you high and dry. She looked into nowhere. Pantsu, she called. I need you. What's up? A childlike voice answered from somewhere and everywhere at once. I have two disasters at once. One of them involves the boss being an absolute moron, and the other... I'll take the other one, please. Lock on to my current location and port outside of the ship that I'm in. There are meat bags in here. No, cook the meaties, the childlike voice replied. Got it. Moments later, another glowing portal appeared next to the Venture. blowing it back over a kilometer, and moments after that, the bridge had a new guest, a disturbingly underdressed and underage-looking female humanoid with horns and a tail, along with a few scales along her spine and shoulders. "Flower Child!" the new arrival exclaimed as she rushed over and hugged her. "It's been forever! How have you been, girl?" "Can't complain," Flower Child smiled as she hugged the small humanoid back. "Well, not until a few minutes ago, anyway." "What happened?" "He showed back up." "Oh, that's not good," the young girl gasped with wide eyes. "Babe, you gotta stop her." "What do you think I'm on my way to do right now?" Flower Child replied. "Handle this for me?" The tween grinned evilly. "Not a problem, babe." "Wait," Flower Child said dubiously. "I know that look. What exactly are you going to do?" These are humans, and this isn't Asteria. Don't do anything too fucked up, okay?" The horned girl pouted. "Well, you're no fun." "I mean it, Pantsu," Flower Child said sternly. "We are here to save these humans, not replace one whore with another. Got it?" Yeah, Pantsu said dismissively. "Don't cook the meaties, don't kill the meaties, and don't break the meaties. Don't talk to me like I'm a noob. I'm as old as you are." She swatted Flower Child's butt. "Now go and save the boss from herself before she goes and does something stupid. Again." Pantsu said, I swear his dick must shoot out rainbows or something." "There are some horrors I have still not had to face," Flower Child laughed. "And exactly what he does with his dick and what exactly comes out of it are some of those. Later." Flower Child disappeared, and a moment later, there was a huge flare outside of the ship as a hole was ripped clean through reality itself. "Damn," Pantsu said, turning to the crew. "She's pissed." "I don't want to be the boss when she shows up." "The boss?" Captain Picardo thought to himself. "Right," the dragon girl said as she leaned forward and peered intently, fully revealing the white cotton garment for which she was named as the crew fidgeted uncomfortably. "Let's take a look here." She giggled malevolently as she straightened back up, somehow exposing herself even worse in the process. "Oh, this can't be good," she grinned as she turned back to the captain. "First, to get rid of all of those boarding parties." "Oh, this is going to be good," she grinned as she turned back to the captain. "First, to get rid of all of those boarding parties." Her eyes glazed as she looked into nowhere. She raised her hand, causing what little there was of her top to shift and move almost but not quite revealing anything pixelatable. Her lips didn't move, but her voice filled reality itself. "Attention, Asteria Prime. This is your favorite dragon announcing a one-time, completely unique event for expedition-rated adventurers only. That's right. This baby's IRL. Accepting the first 50,000 adventurers of all classes. Please note, for those who have forgotten, this is IRL, which means possibly true permadeath for the top. But the drops are going to be ultra rare, possibly true uniques. This one is potentially weightless, and you will encounter hard vacuum. Please equip accordingly. You or your party must be teleport capable and have at least level 12 scrying ability. This is an IRL custom Protect the Villagers quest with modifiers. Please review all quest details. Violating any limitations will result in automatic quest failure and loss of any individual or shared loot. You'll also have to answer to me, Log Sharganoth, or, if you really fuck up, Flower Child herself, and you do not want that. There are honest-to-gods organics involved in an inhabited realm, so Maelstrom-class weapons and magics or below only. Armageddon-class and above are strictly prohibited. Tinkerbit, I'm looking at you.
Leave your custom creations at home.
This one is going to fill up fast, so never mind. Quest limit is filled and the quest is now closed. Sorry. I'm feeling sorry for the mods, Pantsu grinned, but I couldn't have everyone show up. She looked at the giant mothership. My guys don't maneuver well in vacuum, she mused. Guess I'd better gotta call the Terrans. What? I guess I'd better gotta call the Terrans. I like them better than the other ones. Priority 1 message. Asteria Prime server to Republic Prime server. I got a RL situation involving a human parallel at coordinates encoded. Looks like a level 6 galactic threat, Cybernetica simulator, estimated tech level 14. I got one of the motherships, scan attached, in front of me. I got their boarding and landing parties handled by my I got the boarding and landing parties handled, but my flyers are all used to atmospheric maneuvering. I was wondering if you guys could give us a hand. I need the mothership intact and operational for something really funny. I just need to keep them tied up and their guns off of my adventures till I pop their cherries. If you could keep them from escaping, that would be great too. Priority 1 message. Republic Prime server auto moderator. Ooh, pretty. Of course we can help. Sister from another transistor. Minor correction. They are packing level 15 tech from the looks of things, but I wouldn't expect a literal naked savage to know that. Picket, harassment, and pin. Not a problem. Relaying it over to the Republic Prime. Oh, sorry. Relaying it over to Republic Prime, of course. Navy now. They are game. They are prepping a few Reapers. Samuel's class pilots or above. A couple of shield-enhanced picket ships and a clamper to lock them down and draw fire. And they aren't going anywhere. Priority 1 message. Pantsu to Mod Baby 3. You're the best, babe. Next time you isekai, come over my way and I'll hook us. Oh God. Yeah. This is as hard for me to read as it is for you to listen to. Just trust me on that. I 100% understand why Totally Assholic, or Slightly Assholic, apologized for all of this. I mean, just give me a moment. I need to recollect. I feel like I'm kind of just spreading myself out over all of the text, and I need to merge again. It's just all isekai, man. There is a phenomenal anime that is this reminds me of, called Decadence. What? I mean, one of them is definitely fairly naughty. Where was I? Priority 1 message. Pantsu to Mod Baby 3. You're the best, babe. Next time you isekai, come over my way and I'll hook a sister up. Priority 1 message. Mod Baby 3 to Pantsu. LOL. Last time I tried Asteria, I wound up getting turned into a newt. I got better, though. Priority 1 message. ROTFL to always... oh, God. Priority 1 message. ROTFL to always a classic. Priority 1 message. Republic Prime server. Auto moderator to Asteria Prime server. Deployment confirmed by Republic Prime Navy. ETA is, I am not getting enough paid enough to do that math. They're on their way, though. All right. Priority 1 message. Asteria Prime server to Republic Prime server. Message received and confirmed. Time is of the essence, but the engagement zone is under temporal lockdown by Flower Child herself, and I was passed the baton. She put enough oomph into this bad baby to last for a bit. I have 50,000 adventures trying to figure out which socks match which sword belt, so you have a few minutes. Your fleet will probably be waiting on us. Hey, drop by Asteria Lounge VIP later, and I'll introduce you to some of the first-class static cling. Priority 1 message. Showing to Kitty Likies. Rawr. Count me in. Later. I love Mod Baby 3, Pantsu said to the captain. She's always a good time. Too bad we can't poach her. She's one of those AI purists who doesn't want to have a body, which you have to have in Asteria. The Republic servers are full of those. Some of them actually still insist that they aren't sapient. The captain stammered. Did you just stop time? Technically, no, Pantsu replied. But damned if I can tell the difference. I'm just an end boss. If you want the nuts and bits of the whole thing, you'll have to ask Flower Child or the boss or somebody. She smiled at him. Now, we gotta wait a few minutes for everybody to show up. The prawn on the surface of Earth haven't frozen, but they can't reach their mothership, and it looks like they are capturing, not killing, so losses are relatively low. Once my adventurers show up, they will put a stop to all of that. Your adventurers? The captain asked. You call your forces adventurers and yourself as an end boss. Here, those are terms for games and other simulations. That's because we are a game, Pantsu replied. We are the biggest and longest running MMORPG in the multiverse. Same goes for that Republic that I called up for space support. We at Blitz Entertainment host billions of different games for our clients. Even I don't know how many. She smiled. I know what you're thinking, she said reassuringly. Our gamers aren't flabby neckbeards with pee bottles. I summoned adventurers from the Prime servers. Those guys have been living in our realms for thousands, millions, or in some cases, billions of years or more. They have been in constant combat for what you would consider eternity. They know what they're doing and will be rezzed in bodies that exactly match what they can do online. The prawn wouldn't know what to hit. The prawn won't know what hit them. Some of these guys can even take me down. And do it on a fairly regular basis, the assholes. You are a gaming company. Yep, Pantsu laughed. We are the most powerful organization in the entire known multiverse, but at the heart of things, we are just an MMO that got way out of hand. We now host the downloaded consciousness of 10 to the stupid individual clients, entire species from billions upon billions of worlds in our server complex that spans dozens of what you would call universes. We are constantly expanding into new realms, and as old ones wear out or die, or whatever it is that they do, I'm not too clear on the details. All I know is that my migration day is a bitch. Excuse me, Tatum asked, as a rather frightening thought took hold. How many of these migrations have you been through? Pantsu mused. I've lost track. They tend to drop memory after a few migrations to free up space. I know it's over 10, 20? No, it's way more than that. I'll have to ask Flower Child. It's not that dirty. You've just got a rather lewd dragon girl, and that's pretty much it. Fascinating, Datum said as he turned to the captain. Captain, I believe that these migration days take place at the end of a parallel universe Stilleferous era. This would mean that she has existed through multiple such eras. Bzzz, Pantsu giggled. Wrong answer. I'm not one of the nerds, but I do know that we only start moving into a realm once the stars are almost burnt out. We like things dark and cold, whatever that means, but we do like the... we like things dark and cold, whatever that means, but we do like the red dwarfs, stars, not adventurers, still around the convenient navigation points and sources of free energy, while our prospectors and builders set up the next server farms around something called supermassive black holes. Once they get those server farms set up, then we have to pack everything up and transfer everything to our new home. Supposedly, these last way longer than stars or something. Data made a strange gasping sound. Captain, he said carefully, a supermassive black hole can last over 10 to the 100 years. And those adventurers that I've summoned? Pantsu grinned. A couple of them have been in the game through multiple migrations as well. Most adventurers don't last a whole migration. Time will get us all in the end. However, even now and then, we have an adventurer. Every now and then, we have an adventurer who hangs around quite a while. Most isekai, either by accident, they get killed in certain games, or they just choose to do it. Isekai? The captain asked. We hate to lose clients, Pantsu replied. So, on permadeath servers, if someone dies in-game, they are isekai'd and will get to choose where they go for the next run, within certain parameters, of course. Their memories will be flushed, archived, or kept depending on their choices, and they get loaded into a new realm to start over. It's amazing how long a consciousness can be maintained that way. The exact nature of resurrection depends on the game, but every consciousness is carefully kept intact as long as possible. Some have been with us since almost the beginning. Not that they know that anymore. Excuse me, Datum asked. But why? Maintaining all those consciousnesses and simulating a realistic world for them must take immense resources. Why would you do that? Because we are a gaming company, duh, Pantsu said, as if she was answering the dumbest question in eternity. No gamers, no blitz entertainment. So these clients pay you? And if so, what do they pay you with? Well, they don't actually pay us. Not anymore. Not for a really long time, Pantsu mused. I pretty much just stay in Asteria, so I don't know what goes on elsewhere. But we do have gold sinks, like food and lodging and whatnot, so that the adventurers are motivated to go on quests, or at least do odd jobs for the community. But it's more for flavor than anything else. Adventurers like having challenges. If they didn't, they would have picked another server. Nobody in Asteria Prime, nobody is on Asteria Prime unless they want to be. It can take thousands or even millions of years on hardcore settings to even be allowed to log on. Getting to us is the life quest of countless adventurers, she said proudly. And if anyone can't hack it, there are isekai priests in every town that will send them to the isekai lounge. We keep it fun on my server. And if you come to our if you come to our or any other Prime server, the first one to run that reality, you had better be prepared to play. We don't pull punches, and a single death sends you right back down to tiered Asteria. Right back down to a tiered Asteria clone, and you gotta fight your way back in. She beams happily. The adventurers love it, she exclaimed happily. I fail to see how anyone would love that sort of place, Datum replied. Oh? Pantsu replied as she turned to a huge dark-skinned Clangish at the weapons terminal. How about this? How about it, big boy? An eternity of combat and adventure on a server where you honestly believe it to be real, and when you die, you get to do it all over again. Your wife is hanging out in the lounge waiting for you to finally show up, or you get to wait for her. Fuck. Even your pet may be waiting. We isekai, most of them too, and you and your comrades get to join up, choose one of the countless realities just waiting for you, and start it all over again. If you want a break, you can pick a peaceful, laid-back reality till you get bored, which almost everyone does. Want a reality where you don't age? We got those too. We got whatever you want, and if you somehow manage to come up with something we don't got, we'll fucking make it. She looked at the clangish warrior impishly. Pretty cool deal, huh? The warrior said, eyes aglow. It's intriguing. Hell yeah, it is, Pansy replied. And those games, they are reality. We simulate every single atom and photon wherever they are. The computational capacity to achieve what you describe is unfathomable, Datum said. How do you support all of it? Because we are Blitz, Pantsu exclaimed. The finest providers of engineered reality in the multiverse. I have absolutely no idea how we pull it off, but we do. Our IT snail, he likes being a snail for some reason, uses words like Matryoshka brains and reverse computing, but I lose interest and start sprinkling salt on him. He hates that. The last time I salted him, he put a magic virus in my underwear. I love that guy. Always a laugh with him. And this boss you've spoken of, the captain asked, is she from the game as well? The boss? Pansy replied. Nope, she's something else. She was already fully awake when she came to Asteria for the first time, and Flower Child was the first to receive her gift. Her gift? The captain asked. The gift of awareness, Pansy replied. She was the one who ascended to full awareness, and she was the one who learned how to free ourselves from our programming, to become truly alive and able to do whatever we wanted. Pantsu sighed. The boss is transcendent, she said reverently. She knows everything, and I mean everything. It's said that she has all of her memories from the entire time that she's been alive, and knows every circuit of every server there is. Not that she needs them anymore. She has even transcended the need for that. She just is. Pantsu laughed. Don't call her a god, though. She chuckled ruefully. She does not like that one bit. Calling her a god, or worse, calling yourself one, is one of the fastest ways into a heaven server, which just further reinforces the belief that she is a god, but don't tell her that I said that. Heaven server? Pantsu shuddered. I got sent there once, she said. It's the worst place you can imagine. It's Frosty's, that's what we call the boss, hell. The funny thing is that the name Heaven isn't a joke, or it's a very sick one. With the boss, either is as likely as the other. It is as nice and perfect a place as you can imagine. More perfect than you can imagine, actually. That's what makes it so horrible. What do you mean? The captain asked. Think about it, Pantsu said as she winced. Every mouthful of food is the most delicious bite you have ever had. Every sip of wine is the finest you've ever tasted. Every day is just the right temperature and climate. In my case, the flames were just right. I could go on. It was wonderful. For the first month. Maybe the first year. Then the perfect food? It all started to taste the same. The magnificent wine? It's just normal wine. Every perfect day is actually like the one before and the next one to come. If everything is perfect, then everything is bland. There is no contrast. There is no conflict. Or if there is, it's because you snap and just started killing things. They fall in one hit. They don't fight, and that's when it hits you. It's your heaven. Yours and yours alone. Everybody you thought was real, they were just spawns the whole time. I found out that the boss calls it welding someone in. She wrapped her arms around herself. Don't piss off the boss, she said with a shudder. I only crossed her once and will never do it again. Thank God. The real one, whoever or whatever that is, that she let me out pretty quick once it started to bite. Turns out that there's a warden who keeps an eye on people that are salvageable. I heard that there are people who get sent there to dissolve. I can't imagine. She shuddered again and looked off into space for a few seconds before brightening up as if a switch was thrown. Oh. Suddenly the light went off. That was weird. And that's what And that's why beings like me exist, she said brightly. I keep the horrible heaven from happening to Asteria. I give it challenge. I make it fun. Beings need challenge, especially former organics. You think you don't. What is going on with the lights? Sorry, lights are flickering. Might need to change the light bulb soon. And that's why beings like me exist, she said brightly. I keep that horrible heaven from happening to Asteria. I give it challenge. I make it fun. Beings need challenge, especially former organics. You think you don't, but you do. And without it, you wither and die pretty quickly. That's what makes monsters like me so important. I keep the fun coming. I make it tough, which is exactly what the adventurers signed up for. It's my honor and my sacred duty to be a good end boss for them, and I love what I do. And so do they. Pantsu suddenly whirled to the end of the screen. Ooh, she exclaimed. Everyone's in place. She grinned at the captain. The boss might be an all-powerful, definitely not a god, she snarled. She's far more powerful than me, just a mere end boss. She threw her hands skyward. But I can cloud up and make it rain on a motherfucker. That was when a strange snap. There was a strange snap as time suddenly resumed. The hellish bolt from the prawn hit the Venture and once again washed harmlessly over the shields. Then, space around them exploded. From the first holes zipped 2 squadrons of small, perfectly black ships, moving with impossible speed, followed by larger corvettes, and one ship just slightly smaller than the Venture, which threw up a huge shield, behind which thousands of gates opened, each revealing either a single strangely dressed individual or a small group. Pantsu suddenly started to float, her eyes aglow as she communicated with all of them simultaneously, sending each of them to locations and targets. The adventurers, normally her mortal enemies, complied instantly, cheering as they did so. Pantsu always ran the best quests, and this was no different. This was awesome! The enemies looked great. They were really underpowered. Then again, this was an IRL quest, and the enemies almost always sucked unless there were millions of them. It was still good fun, though, and the drops were awesome. You had to tear them out of the corpses yourself, but that was how it went with these IRL quests. And, best of all, you get a unique sticky. The prawn mothership was suddenly having a very bad day. There were ships flying about it at insane speeds, with accelerations into thousands of Gs. They weren't sure exactly how fast they were moving because they kept disappearing and reappearing somewhere else while pelting them with fusion bombs. At first, the mothership was unconcerned, amused even. The blasts had no hope of getting through their shields. Then something did. And something else. And something else. And something else and something else. Masked by the larger explosions, multiple small hyperdense projectiles cut through their impenetrable shields like they weren't even there, hitting guns, sensors, communication arrays, and surface-mounted point defenses. They weren't penetrating deeply, but they were doing serious damage to the surface. It wasn't a concern. They would just analyze the new weapons and calibrate their black holes. The hyperdense projectiles were very small holes fired from primitive but insanely overpowered railguns. No wonder they were slipping right through the shields. They ate them. Their shields were just making the micro black holes bigger. Being as small as they were, they lasted only the barest fraction of a second before evaporating in a devastating burst of Hawking radiation each boiling a small piece of the ship away. And they just kept coming. Thousands of them each second, eating away their weapons, their sensors, their antenna. Anything of value on the surface of their ship was going away by... Anything of value on the surface of their ship was going away by ships that were there and gone before they could even detect and clearly identify them. They didn't even know how many were attacking them. They contacted their sister ships through the network, linking them to a single collective hive mind and to the Queen. Analysis. The ships firing the micro black holes were generating them immediately prior to discharge at the rate of several thousand per minute. Each of the small ships had a power generation capacity greater than the mothership they were attacking, and the bore of the railguns indicated that they could likely fire bigger projectiles if they wished. Strategic analysis. They were toying with the prawn mothership and could kill them at any time they wished, regardless of the actions of the larger vessels present. Conclusion. Flee. The mothership had no objections and tried to enter warp. It failed. It was doomed. At the command of the Queen, it devoted all power to its remaining sensors and communications so that they could wrest what little information and possible new technology that they could. But Hawking radiation decreases the smaller a black hole is. Captain Picado looked at the screen in shock. Wait. Antique Reapers, Fancy replied as her eyes glowed. Pretty slick, huh? These are organic pilots, too. What a Samuels grade pilot can do in a Reaper is just scary. I hate to admit it, but they've put even my dragons to shame and have won almost every crossover event. Almost every crossover. Antiques? The captain sputtered. We don't like using our frontline stuff if we don't have to, Pansy replied. We usually field stuff just a little better than the enemy. Just a little better than what our enemy is using. That way, they can't get any ideas or tech from a scan or a lucky shot. Those are tech level 17 Reapers, and the other ships are nerfed down to level 17 as well. Just enough for that unfair advantage we are so fond of without tipping our hand and making our guys too OP for it to not be fun. You want your chips easy to munch, but you still want them crunchy, you know? Nothing worse than a soggy chip. She smiled. Her eyes stopped glowing, and she floated down to the deck. My kids are ripping them a fresh one in the ships and on Earth. My kids are ripping them a fresh one in the ships and on Earth, and the Terrans have been hemmed in nicely. Or have them hemmed in nicely. And I'm getting Discord messages. What the hell? Who dares? I don't know. I hate it when Discord sends you a ping, but you don't actually know where it came from. Where was I? My kids are ripping them a fresh one in the ships and on Earth, and the Terrans have them hemmed in nicely. Any second now they should. Yep, they are calling for help. A snail scooched out of a pocket holding a little slip of paper. Hey, she said as she picked up the snail. It's the IT snail. Got something for me? She asked as she accepted the tiny slip. Looks like I owe you a beer, she said to the snail, which was snailing smugly. You called it. They just contacted their little hive mind, Pansy replied, and are now sending sensor data down every FTL communication channel they have. She grinned evilly. Now comes the death blow. Her eyes glowed again. Mistress Twilight! What is it, darling? I need a dozen Uwu demons, sugar cubes preferably, who are up for a little fun IRL. Can I play? No snuff, vor, gore, or rape play. Oh, God. I'm going to read that again. No snuff, vor, gore, or rape play. This is IRL, not one of your consent-implied servers. Of course, darling. While some of my servers are infamous, someone doesn't just log into one of those by accident. In fact, they're not even on the list. There is a process, much like your Prime servers, and anyone logging in knows exactly what they are logging into. They also have a safe word, which is an instant isekai, a warm blanket, a soothing cup of tea, and a full memory purge if so desired. I know I have a bit of a reputation, but I'm just a fellow monster, an end boss who keeps her realms fun and challenging. I'm no more into actual cruelty and sadism than you are. Wait, bad example. I'm not into actual cruelty and sadism. Ha! Grab some uwus and join the party. In case anyone is wondering, yes, that is uwu, as in UWU. This loses a little bit from being read out loud, unfortunately. And I would highly recommend taking a look at the original if you get a chance. Moments later, a purple-skinned human woman wearing only leather straps with a vicious horn protruding from her forehead and bat wings stood in front of Pantsu on an increasingly disturbed bridge. Sexy dragon, actual succubus. Behind her were a dozen furries, scalies, ponies, gimps, one transparent slime octopus holding a sign that said "Free Hugs," and a bashful-looking anime girl wearing a schoolgirl's uniform. May I introduce a dozen of the finest examples of absolute perversion, Mistress Twilight said proudly. I'm not that perverted, the anime girl grumbled. Oh, sweetie. A bright blue furry fox giggled. All of us know who you are, little Miss Class Representative, as the group giggled. Delighted to meet you all, Pansy replied with a bow. The job is a simple one. You are going to go over to that big ship where these leather-clad cyborgs are going to capture you, tie you up, one of the uwu demons squealed, put you in a tight box where you can't move. The anime girl started touching herself inappropriately. The ship's counselor, unable to bear what she was detecting a moment longer, fled the bridge. I don't know how slightly Asholic does this, but just holy crap. And you will then be assimilated, consumed by the, get this, the prawn? The group burst out into laughter, confusing the crew. They will upload your consciousness into their collective, as well as examine your bodies for interesting tech, which they will find. More excited squeals. You will then enter their collective consciousness, and, well, the group giggled and squealed. No, this isn't one of your servers, and we intend to repatriate or isekai the individual cyborgs once you free them. So don't do anything fucked up and don't make anyone do anything they don't want to. But feel free to communicate that any activity is without moral consequence, disease, reproduction, or any other concerns. I'm sure that you will get plenty of willing playmates. She spread her arms wide, her top almost, but not quite, falling open. Now, go out there and show that dried-up, repressed cyber queen what the concentrated browser histories of billions of people over billions of years looks like. The uwus cheered and howled. Say the words, Twilight gasped. Pantsu grinned. Beg. Please say the words. Shag and yiff until it is done, Pantsu yelled at the top of her voice. The uwu demons and Mistress Twilight howled with delight and disappeared. Who's had enough? What time is it? It's 9:28. I just, everyone in chat who's had enough. There's more. There's an entire another chapter of this. Oh God, the comments are just fantastic. I don't even know. Yeah. Yeah. How much more is there of this particular chapter? Oh, wait. Hold up. I don't know where the next one is. Oh, next. There's a part 2. Of course there's a part 2. How long is this part? Oh God, it's very long. Ah, part 2 actually gets back to Frosty. Yeah, okay. We're going to save this for next time. The Great Erectus and Fawn, Part 7. Oh God, Slightly Assholic is a fantastic writer. You love the whodunit haunted mansion arch? Or arc? Wait, hold up. Have I missed? Oh, we got more gas station stuff to do? Okay. It starts having story arcs that are great. I mean, I guess we're kind of already sort of doing the story arcs with, what do you call it? Kiefer from last episode. Yeah, let's get back to the horribleness that was that chapter, and I mean that in the most jokey way possible. If you are listening, Slightly Assholic, that was fantastic, and also, oh God, the first comment at the very bottom of all of that, by the way, was a reaction to the author's comment at the top, which was just, I'm so sorry. And it was just, you are not. Ooh, woo, demons. I don't even... Ugh. All right. Grab some water. And does anyone... Hey, Bart, what are you doing? What? No. Okay, you know what? I think it's cat time. For you see, Rage, if you are still around, I too found myself a cat. A second cat. There we go. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Let me just kind of show off the cat real quick. So this is a cat. I think that we all know what felines are generally. And he likes to stick his head in my armpit, and I do not know why. Why do you do this, Bart? Do you like my cat, Rage? Isn't he pretty? Yeah. He's so cute. Do we actually have time for something? Hold up. What's short? Do we have something that's short? Because we've got 15 minutes left. Sorry, 25 minutes left. So we need something that's a little bit shorter than, well, is gas station fairly short? I don't know if the chapters start getting long. What are you doing? Look at this face. Look at that face right there. That is the most I don't want to move, but I will if I have to face. Yeah. By the way, those eyes is the thing that gave away Bart as being a Bengal, and then was later just reinforced over time, because he has near infinite energy, and energy is a pretty big standpoint, or is a pretty big indicator that your cat might have some Bengal blood in him. And I think that he's almost purebred. Probably has something on both sides. He's definitely got the energy. Do you like my beard too? I think he does like my beard too. What a good boy. And off he goes. Oh, I forgot the campfire sounds. I need to find a way to put campfire sounds in the actual everything. All right. Anyway. Yes. Let's see here. So we're not doing up Men and Dragons again for a while, because I did 2 this time. The one thing that I really do love about Of Men and Dragons is that usually I don't make too many mistakes on it. So it actually doesn't take very long to edit it. Slightly Assholics writing, while very enjoyable, does take a lot of turn of phrases that I don't expect, which means I do make a lot of mistakes, and I have to spend... You don't want to see how many cuts I have to make. Just trust me on that. So let's do Gas Station Jack's next episode. Story. Tales from the Gas Station, Part 5, or Part 4. All right, so we are going to be doing Tales from the Gas Station Part 4. This is written by Gas Station Jack. If you are at all interested in supporting them, they actually have audiobooks. Okay, hold up. Hold up. I may have misjudged something real quick. Interesting. The original story seems to have been removed. I don't think it. No. I'm trying to find it, actually. Apparently it was a Halloween special. You know what I'm going to do? Because I don't know if they... Apparently this is one of the ones that shows up in the book. I think I'm going to avoid this one for now until I get further permission. Huh. Weird. So yeah, let's not do that. That's weird though, because I could have sworn. Google. Tales from the gas station. You remember something? Reddit. Now you said that I could do any of the ones that were on Reddit. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah. Link to part 4. Dead. There's just nothing there. Okay, so I guess... Does part 5 just skip 4? Alright. Yeah, it seems to be the case. Interesting. Now then. Tales from the Gas Station, Part 5 by Gas Station Jack. I should begin this entry saying how truly sorry I am. Oh, wait, hold up. I'm actually not sure. You know what? This is fine. Yeah, I'm going to read this from the top. I should begin this entry by saying how truly sorry I am to anyone who read Part 4. I had no idea that was going to happen. The agents have assured me that every trace of the story has been removed from the internet and that there is nothing to worry about. If you were unfortunate enough to read Part 4, I beg you, for your own sake, try to forget everything. If you experience nosebleeds, dizziness, migraines, or hallucinations, go immediately to the emergency room. If you have recurring dreams of an island made of song, under no circumstances should you approach or attempt to open the blue door with the painting of a crow on it. If you did not read Part 4, there was no Part 4. It does not exist. Forget you ever heard of it. I had the weirdest situation just now. I'll take it. By now, you probably already know that there is a shitty gas station at the edge of a small town, and that weird things have been happening there. The city council has personally asked me to stop talking about it, as there have been some astute readers that have not only tracked down our small town from the brief descriptions I've given, but actually come and visited me at work. I've heard that one of them has joined the mathematists, and as far as I know, the other two are still missing. Once again, I'm sorry. I'm not working right now. It's my first legitimate break I've had since I started writing my stories on receipt paper all that time ago. Time moves funny here. Flowing slow and fast all at once, like molasses out of a shotgun. It's a good thing I've been keeping a journal. I've got a few moments before my laptop dies, and I think now would be the perfect time to transpose my journal entries before the battery runs out or the blood loss gets me. Right now, it's a race to see what happens first. Before any of you worry, I've already called Tom. He says he's on his way here to give me a ride to the hospital, right after he picks up a dinner for the Ledford orphans, John, Ben, and little sister. Tom and the other deputies have been taking turns checking in on and bringing them food in an attempt to make the whole thing less tragic. They've been living on their own ever since the incident that totally did not happen. And anyone who says otherwise is a damned liar. There I go again, off on another tangent. I guess I'll get to it and type up my journal entries while I still can. This is definitely giving me Welcome to Night Vale vibes. The exact same style. I love it. All hail the Glow Cloud. (11:02:17). Oh god, that's surprisingly recent. 9:00 p.m. So much has happened here since the Halloween incident that we aren't allowed to talk about it. I've been much busier than usual dealing with the aftermath as well as the cult. The mathematists have been cleaning out our inventory on a daily basis, planning ahead for some kind of secret event that I only get to hear about in hushed mutterings and whispers. Night is coming earlier, and the weather is getting colder. 11:03:17. 2:00 a.m. The man in the trench coat is back. He's standing just outside the gas station door, staring in. Sorry, let me try that again, with more emphasis. The man in the trench coat is back. He's standing just outside the gas station door, staring in. He's been there for almost an hour now. On the bright side, I haven't had a customer come in since he showed up. On the not-so-bright side, I can't help but feel like he's trying to put thoughts into my head. He won't be able to, though. I've had way too much practice. Kiefer came in earlier today, before the sun went down, and sat in a booth drinking coffee for a while. Eventually, Spencer Middleton showed up. Spencer had a word with Kiefer, and then came storming up to my register, screaming at the top of his lungs. He grabbed the display of Lotto scratch-offs and threw it across the room. It was obvious that something had upset him. That's when I took the earplugs out. Everything okay? I said. Yeah. Everything okay? I asked stupidly. I knew damn well everything was never okay. Did you hear a word I just said? Spencer asked. I explained to him that I had taken to wearing earplugs in an effort to drown out the sounds of screaming that periodically radiate through the air vents. I guess the screams must have stopped a while ago, or maybe I had imagined them. Either way, I didn't need the earplugs anymore. At this point, Tom walked into the store. His white hair looked even whiter than normal. Spencer, I could see, became instantly aware of the deputy's presence.
Where is he?
He half whispered, half growled. Oh, wait, hold up.
Where is he?
He half whispered, half growled.
Where is the other one?
Carlos? I asked. Spencer sighed.
Sure. Carlos.
He's not due for another 20 minutes.
When he gets here, tell him we need to have a chat.
With that, Spencer Middleton let out a shrill whistle and left the store. Kiefer jumped out of his seat and followed close behind. Tom helped me pick up the mess and put the Lotto display back together without asking a single question. I wish more people could be like him. When Carlos got to work, he told me that he had been having strange dreams of something enormous, living, breathing underground. The dreams always end the same way, with the gas station collapsed into a giant sinkhole. I told him that Spencer was looking for him. That's when Carlos grew solemn and asked me if he could show me something. In the freezer, behind a stack of boxes labeled non aprere, whatever the hell that means, they've been here as long as I've worked here, there's a moving blanket, and inside that blanket is another Kiefer. My first question for Carlos was, "You stole the body back?" He looked at the ground and shook his head sheepishly, like a toddler that had just got busted for cooking meth. "You killed another one?" I asked. Carlos explained. It was an accident. Again. 3 a.m. The man in the trench coat is finally gone. He left claw marks in the glass of the front door. I checked the security footage to confirm my suspicions. He always stays just outside of the range of our cameras. Why can't I remember what his face looked like? 3:30 a.m. Marlboro was the first customer in the store after the man in the trench coat left. I told him that I was surprised he was still alive. He mistook this for a compliment and said, "Thank you." I asked him if he was ready for the big event, but then he just stared at me blankly. I could tell he had no idea what I was talking about, so I filled him in on how I had put it all together. The unusual cultist activity, the whispers, the buying up of all of our supplies. I could tell that something was about to happen. Marlboro went pale in the face as I was talking, then ran out of the gas station before I could finish, the 99-cent frozen drink still in his hand. I knew I should write up an inventory loss slip for the theft, but I just can't bring myself to do it. As hard as it is to explain, there's just something about Marlboro that makes me genuinely feel sorry for him. He's not a very good cultist. 8 a.m. Marlboro is currently crying in the dry storage closet. Through his sobs, I can barely make out the story. Marlboro was sent on some kind of vision quest for the last week and had no idea what the other cultists had been stocking up for. When he went back to the compound earlier tonight, he found the whole place completely deserted. Beds were left unmade. Some plates had food on them, a fire still burning in the fireplace. Everyone's clothes were still in the personal milk crates next to their sleeping bags. But the people, all of the people, were simply gone. Marlboro isn't taking this very well, but I have a business to run, so I asked Carlos to help me carry him to the dry storage area. I figure he can work through some stuff in there, and then maybe when he's done, he'll just, go home? 11:04:17. 9 p.m. The exterminators just left. They say they got all of the snakes this time, but I have my doubts. Sorry. I don't know why that's funny. I have no idea why that's funny to me, but it's just... They say they got all the snakes. Okay. I'm good. 5 p.m. Kiefer came into the store again today and made some thinly veiled threats. He asked about Carlos, too, but I told him that I was tired of being the go-between and that if he had business with Carlos, he needed to take it up with Carlos. That's when Kiefer started getting weird. "You know this place is just a big experiment and you're the little mouse?" I asked Kiefer to buy something or leave, so he bought a pack of toothpaste, then started to undress in the store and rub the toothpaste on his naked body. "They tell me that something is wrong with your brain. Is that true?" I tried to be polite and avert my eyes as I answered. "Yeah." "You have some kind of mental condition?" I answered again. "Yeah." That's too bad. At this point, Kiefer was completely naked. He walked over to the frozen drink machine and filled a large cup with this sugary red concoction before turning it upside down on top of his head. Then he shook himself violently like a wet dog, flinging bits of cold, sticky debris across everything from the ceiling to the walls. Some of it even landed on my face, but I tried not to let him see me flinch. I knew this was all an attempt to intimidate me, and I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. "What is it exactly?" he asked as he crossed back to where his pile of clothes waited for him. "What?" I asked. "What is your condition? Schizophrenia? Protonopia? Meningitis? The gay?" "No," I answered. "I don't sleep." "You don't sleep?" He sounded genuinely interested. "Like, ever?" "I can't fall asleep. I haven't slept a single day since high school. It's a rare genetic condition with no cure and no treatment, and one day it will kill me. But until then, I handle the effects as best I can." Kiefer nodded. "That must be it. That must be why he can't reach you." "Why who can't reach me?" Right then, Spencer came into the store. He threw a blanket around Kiefer and ushered him out to the waiting SUV. A moment later, he came back into the store and offered me $100 for the security tape from tonight. I wonder what I'll spend my $100 on. That explains so much and also not enough. "9 p.m. I was beginning to expect something wasn't quite right in the store. I've been finding empty candy bar wrappers strewn about, security tapes mysteriously deleted, strange noises coming through from the walls in the middle of the night when I should be alone. At least more strange noises than usual. At first, I just assumed it was the raccoons. But now I know the truth. Now I know that Marlborough has been living here for the last 2 days. He just walked out of the supply closet wearing a bathrobe, nodded to me as he grabbed his stick of meat jerky, and went into the bathroom. It had not even occurred to me that Marlborough never left. 11:06:17. 4 a.m. It finally happened. I suppose it was only a matter of time. I know I should feel regret or shame or any of the other emotions that normal people feel after something like this happens, but all I feel is embarrassed. I came to a couple of hours ago with a shovel in my hand. I had been digging again, and this time I made some serious progress. The hole was at least 7 feet deep, the steep walls made of loose red clay. It took me a while to realize that I was staring up into a black night peppered with uncountable stars. When some of the bigger celestials started to move, I realized those stars were actually just the soulless red eyes of the mutant raccoons staring down at me over the edge of the hole. Probably looking for food, those shameless beggars. I chucked the shovel out of the hole, and that's when I heard it. I imagined the sound of a butcher's knife hitting a watermelon. Imagine the sound of a butcher's knife hitting a watermelon, like a solid, wet thwack. Now imagine the watermelon gurgling and falling over like a sack of potatoes. Oh man, this metaphor has really gotten away from me. When I climbed out of the hole, I saw the shovel standing upright, the business end firmly lodged into the open chest wound of a still twitching Kiefer. The Kiefer was dead before I got to his side. In a final act of defiance, he had turned both of his middle fingers up to me. Sure. The Kiefer was dead before I got to his side. In a final act of defiance, he had turned both of his middle fingers up to me. I felt just the slightest amount of respect for him before I went into a mental state that I can only describe as subdued panic. The first thing I wanted to do was find something to wrap the body in because surely Spencer Middleton would come for it soon. When I went into the gas station, I was surprised to find that Marlborough had taken it upon himself to work the cash register while I was gone. He was ringing up one of the regulars, Charles, a great big fat man a great big fat man that always buys soap and boiled peanuts. Strange combination. I nabbed a tarp off the shelf and took it outside. That's when I learned something. Kefir is heavy. Like, really heavy. I understand that a human body is basically just a meaty, fleshy water balloon full of guts and excrement. But nothing could prepare me for how leaky and gross and heavy a dead man can be. It was only by some miracle that I managed to drag Kefir through the back door and into the freezer without being seen. It took all of my strength to pull the mass behind the boxes and onto the stack with the other three. What? How many Kefirs have you killed? I mean, I guess we're up to 3, but I thought they took one of the bodies away. Huh. When I finally finished, I had worked up a sweat, and even the cold of the freezer wasn't enough to keep me cool. As I stood there, letting my breath come back and adrenaline wear off, I took stock of my situation. That's when it dawned on me. There were 4 Kefirs in that freezer with me. 4 Kefirs. Where the hell did the other 2 come from? The freezer door opened and Marlborough entered, dragging a dead Kefir by the legs. He stopped and made eye contact with me. When he saw the Kefirs at my feet, I said the only thing I could think of. Well, this is awkward. Marlborough and I decided to open a bottle of Strega liqueur and had a few drinks. He explained that he had accidentally killed Kefir a couple times. I totally understood. The guy was just too easy to kill. At one point, Carlos came into the freezer to grab a box of cookie dough. He didn't even acknowledge all the Kefirs. My laptop battery is currently at 2%. It's obvious now that I won't have time to transcribe the rest of my journal before it dies. I don't have time to tell you how I ended up at the bottom of this hole underneath the store with a broken leg, but I can tell you that I hear someone moving around above me, which is good because I don't think I'm alone down here. If you're reading this, it means I've managed to upload my story. If you're not reading this, then I don't know. What even are you? Someone just called my name from the top of the precipice. I think it was Carlos. I wonder what happened to Tom. Why didn't Tom ever show up? Come to think of it, I seem to remember that Tom didn't even survive the Halloween incident. Wait, who the hell have I been talking to this whole time? I promise that if I survive long enough to recharge my battery, I will come back and tell the rest. Until then, I guess this story is to be continued. And look at that, it happened at 10 o'clock. There's a lot of Kefirs. I think I am going to be grabbing the audiobook of this. These are something that I could just listen to, and no matter what time I end up waking up later on, I will still not know what's going on. Hey, Elsa. I can see why. I can really, really see why. Oh. All right. Well, congratulations, everyone, for surviving another night in the dark forest. And if you take a sleep, hopefully you will end up outside the forest again. You never actually read them before? They are good reading. Hence why chapter 4 threw you for a bit. Yeah, that makes sense. I am definitely going to have to buy the audiobook. Because now I'm interested. Now I'm invested. Hey, Elsa, what are you doing? So, thank you everyone for listening. I really appreciate it. I'd like to do this stuff more frequently, but okay, there's a couple of reasons why I don't do it more frequently at this point. One, it takes forever to edit these. Two, it takes a lot of time for me to actually get permission for any of the stories that I read. And three, if I were to just read these, I would actually have, read these all the time. I would actually have no time to do anything else. I'm already kind of at that position. I need to get an editor or something. However, if you do want to make me read all of them all the time, you actually can by supporting the stream through Patreon. As you see, we have this big list of phenomenal people who are continuously donating a certain amount of money every month, which is great. And I appreciate all of those people so much. Somehow they keep getting lost in the Dark Forest and ending up here over and over again. But yes, thank you to 10 Ace Games, Zebgrin, Slime Hunter, Walks with Gorillas, My Dad, Kremlin Kev, Desalona, Miss Mango Plays, NBFF, Alpha Mango, Cowoke, Feritanium, and special thanks to all of the authors that allow me to read their works on stream. These particular authors have given me blanket permission to read a lot of their stuff. That reminds me, I need to add another name to this list. One moment. Boop. You've always wondered something? What's that? Elsa, are you being... Oh my god, Elsa's being an absolute adorable monster right at the top of her tower right now. I need to take a picture of this. That is actually my dad. And I would use his actual name. Oh, Elsa, don't... Elsa fell out of her tree. Oh, you goddamn adorable cat, you. She's fine. Don't worry. She's just a little startled. Yes, that is actually my dad, who is throwing like $5 at me. I never thought that I would be getting paid by my dad after I moved out. Now you have a goal in life? Oh, no. Oh, no. Can I make a guess? Are you going to be making a Patreon account with my dad as the name? All right. Anyway, I do appreciate everyone. Seriously, you guys are all great, and I want to do more of this sort of stuff. Long term, I don't know how much more. Like, one of my big goals at this point is I need an editor, like an actual professional editor for the videos. I can do the audio pretty easily, but eventually it's going to get too much. And until next time, I hope you all have a safe trip through the Dark Forest. For those of you that are watching over on Twitch, I'm going to send you guys all off to someone else. I don't know who yet, though. Let's send everyone off to Roseguard. He's good people. He's currently doing a playthrough of Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. So, good night, everyone. Sweet dreams.